Everyone starts at square one. Apple started off in a garage, and now it's the biggest company in the world by value. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, had to go and deliver packages by himself, just using his car when it was first starting out. And Einstein also had to learn his ABCs, just like the rest of us, and learn how to count to 10. All of these people started off small. Emphasize this because everyone needs to start off small. Every YouTube channel has to start off with 0 subscribers. Every company has to start off with 0 revenue. Every person who starts at the gym starts off at a physique that's either too skinny or too fat, and they have to work their way up to getting into their dream physique. But don't be afraid to start small. Starting small is necessary to also appreciate the journey that you're going to go through. If it was easy, if things that were difficult, things that were valuable in society were easy, no one would care. No one would want to do those things. It's unfortunate that it's hard and it takes a lot of time to get to certain positions of a business, certain positions of levels of health and levels of fitness, but it's necessary. And don't be deterred by the fact that you have to start from level 0. If anything, it's okay to accept that you have to start from that level and then work your way up over time. Consistency over a long time beats people who probably had talent when they were born, or when they started out, or they had some sort of advantages. Even though everyone has their own unfair advantages, maybe somebody is richer than you, so they could start off certain things using more capital, using basically a more advantageous position. But if you're consistent, if you're constantly working on what it is that you have to be working on, over time, you'll overtake that person if they're not putting in the work. So it's okay to start off really bad. Like recently, I started to ride a motorbike, and the first time I rode a motorbike, of course, I'm a beginner, so I'm not going to be amazing at it. But then over time, as I practice, I get better and better at it. And if I continue to improve, then I turn into a better rider, and I just learn more things. And overall, I get better at riding a motorbike. And the same thing can be applied to my business. Like, I didn't start off having a business that was running efficiently. There was so many things wrong with it at the start. But then over time, by working on it, it got to a better point. And that's the same thing with anything that you want to learn or you want to do in this life. You just have to start off small and work hard over many, many years. And the greatest example of starting off small and then ending up in a really good place after constant work is tech companies, or just companies, or very successful companies that people know today, like Amazon and Apple. If we take the very first Apple computer, it's basically made out of wood, and it was very primitive. But at the time, it was cutting edge, or what you would claim to be cutting edge. But you can see that looking at it, it's very, very old looking. It looks nothing like any of the Apple computers that people are used to today, but it was a start, and it was a necessary start, because if Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs never started Apple and never made the first Apple computer, we wouldn't have the Apple we have today if they didn't start that company. And if we look at the computers now, they're vastly more superior than what they were in the past. And that didn't happen overnight. That happened over a long time. It happens by investing your money and your time into yourself, into the things that you care about, into things that you want to see grow. There's a saying that people say. They say that the grass is always greener on the other side. But I think that the grass is actually greener wherever you water it. If you have relationships with people, friendships, partners, if you never spend the time to cultivate those, then they won't go anywhere. If you have a business and you don't spend time and effort working on that business, even if it's your side hustle, then it's just going to stagnate and stay the same, or even decline. That's no more true than it is for your health as well. If you are not putting enough effort and time into your health, then your health is going to decline. If you don't go to the gym, consistently each week, then your health is going to decline. If you don't eat healthy, your health is going to decline. And it's just necessary to stay consistent and continue through the hard points. I think that the very start, when you're learning something or doing something for the first time, it's the hardest, because you don't get much positive feedback, because you're getting things wrong constantly. And so you get a lot of negative feedback, and the little things that do work, they're good. But then people oftentimes they stop before it gets better. So the people would stop building a business, people would stop a YouTube channel before it would get to a point that in the future, had they reached that point, it could have been a very feasible way for them to continue with that business, with that YouTube channel, with that relationship, with that friendship, all these things, with even a degree. So just accept that you have to start off small and then continue on with that. And this concept of starting off small, it's important because when we're children and we're going through the most learning possible, because I teach a lot of students as a tutor, and I'm seeing a lot of the formative years of these kids' lives, and I'm seeing they how differently kids approach learning. Like, to us as adults, it normally hurts our ego a little bit if we're not good at something the first time. But to kids, like, kids are just learning, they're playing it, they're having fun with that process of learning. And a lot of adults, they forget that. They forget that learning is part of the process. They fear failure. So many people fear failure. They feel failure, and they might not talk to somebody that they want to go up and talk to. They might not start a business because they're afraid of failing. They might not take a risk that they know would work out if they took it and if they kept working hard at it, but they just fear failure. And I think that failure, unless it's like life or death, I think failure should be more accepted in society. Like, to fail faster means to get better faster. The more you put yourself into a position where you're not doing things that you're already good at, you're doing things that just push you out of your comfort zone and challenge you to grow. That's how you grow so quickly as a person. That's how you form a successful life, because you're constantly getting better at a thing by challenging yourself. And it's a great mindset to have, to challenge yourself. And what's great is we can look at so many past success stories to see this in action, this to see that starting something, sticking to it over time, does lead to success. Think about David Goggins. He was 300 pounds at 24 years old. He was in a living position that was just not that great. Like, he was just spraying for cockroaches, working as an exterminator, when that's not really what he wanted to do with life. And he also was barely literate at that time, like 24 years old, barely literate. And what he did was he lost weight. So I'll show you some pictures of him before and after. But he lost 100 pounds, I think, in 3 months, and he became a Navy SEAL. And then from there, he's become a motivational speaker. And from there, he's also written a best-selling book. A person that was illiterate at 24 taught himself how to read and write, went through that difficult process of change, and then turned out into the person that he is today. And it's great to look at these stories and then gain inspiration from that, because that could be you. If you're in a bad position, and if you just put in the consistent effort, you started small, that's you. This is you in the future. Even if you think about things like Hershey's, like Hershey's chocolates, the owner of Hershey's was failed and went bankrupt 3 times before he got the formula for his chocolate right, before his company started working. Like, his company became successful. So he pushed through that failure. And most of the people that watch my videos, they're around 18 to 30 years old. So we're generally quite young. And this is, a lot of the time, it's whenever we come across failure, whether that's failure in work, business, fitness, or just personal failures that we might have and understand that other people might not understand, it's new to us. When you fail in school, it's different. When you fail in real life, it's a whole different thing. Like, when you fail in real life, you feel like so much like a failure the first few times you fail. But that's because we internalize that failure too much. We try and match that failure to us, but the failure is not us. Like, we are a different thing to the failure. The failure is just a part of the process. Too many people, they think of themselves as a failure because they've not achieved something that they haven't achieved yet, or they didn't achieve, and they've taken that too close to heart and too personally. And that's a bad way to go about it, because it deters you from taking risks and failing in the future to learn. And that is a way that you basically stunt your growth. If you have a bad relationship with growing and challenging yourself because you're afraid of failing, you're not going to grow. You're going to stagnate. So just take that into consideration and really think about that. The key takeaway from this video is that everything you do for the first time is going to be really bad. You're going to fail, but you have to start small. You have to be consistent. You have to continue. Whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, a decade, you just have to stick with it. Because if you know you want to achieve something, you just have to be consistent with it. Be consistent over a long time, and then you'll make it.